I was known throughout the entire school as the ultimate doormat, and I've been reborn in my past life. My obsession with Elena Rodriguez meant I blew off my studies and never made it to college. When she casually mentioned she didn't like bigger guys, I went on a crash diet that wrecked my health. Seeing the disappointment in my father's eyes and the tears in my mother's, I died full of regret. Done with girls, time to build a future. The moment I opened my eyes again, I knew this life was for me. The funny thing is, the second I decided to stop being her lapdog, the queen bee of Northwood High started to panic. Ben read this love letter of yours out loud for the class, with feeling. My dearest. Who exactly is your dearest? At the front of the classroom, our homeroom teacher, Ms. Albright, slammed her hand on the podium, her voice booming with the frustration of a teacher who'd had enough. Huh. The class erupted in laughter, but sitting at my desk, I was just confused. This is Ms. Albright's senior English class. Am I back in? I slowly scanned the room. On the heavy chalkboard, written in perfect cursive, were the words, "Success is earned, not given. Seize the day. Make your mark." That was our class motto before graduation. The ancient box fans mounted on the walls hummed and rattled. My classmates, all in their blue and white Northwood High polos, shot me looks of ridicule and contempt. I glanced down at the letter on my desk. It was the one I'd written to Elena Rodriguez a month before the SATs. I remember now. She'd handed it straight to Ms. Albright, turning me into the laughingstock of a senior class. In my past life, I was under some kind of spell. I chased Elena from high school all the way through college, right up until she graduated. I finally gave up when I watched her marry some tech millionaire. I lifted my head and looked at her. Elena, sitting in the front row, had a slight smile playing on her lips, her eyes glinting with disdain. I unfolded the letter, cringing. In my own earnest, juvenile handwriting. My dearest Lena, I wanted to ask which colleges you're applying to. I want to apply to schools in the same city so I can see you every day. Dude, don't, my best friend Ethan Miller whispered, nudging my leg with his pen. His face was a mask of secondhand embarrassment. A laugh escaped my lips. I couldn't believe I'd written something so painfully cheesy. You think this is funny? Get out in the hallway now. Ms. Albright roared, her eyes wide as she pointed a finger at my nose. Okay, I mumbled, fighting to keep a smile off my face as I walked out of the classroom. My family was never wealthy. My parents were blue-collar, working-class people who scraped together everything they had to get me into this magnet school. They paid for tutors all through high school, but by junior year, I'd stopped going. I'd lied, taken the tutoring money, and spent it all on gifts for Elena. In the end, I didn't get the girl, and I didn't get into college. My parents couldn't even look their relatives in the eye. They pulled every string they had to find me a job, but my high school diploma was a dead end everywhere I went. I finally ended up in a soul-crushing cubicle job, waking up before dawn and getting home after dark. Every paycheck went straight to buying more gifts for Elena. Looking back, I don't even hate her for it. She was just a girl I used to like. After dying, my obsession just evaporated. My only regret was failing to get into college, forcing my parents to watch me pretend I was trying my best. This time, I refused to see that look of disappointment in my father's eyes or the tears in my mother's. A stretched, genuine, relieved smile spreading across my face. I gave her enough of my last life. This one is for me. Bring. The bell rang, and students started spilling into the hallway. Just as I was about to head back inside, Elena walked right up to me. Ben, what's up? I asked, looking up. She had straight-cut bangs and a high ponytail, her skin flawless. Her big, almond-shaped eyes were framed by long lashes that fluttered like tiny fans. I had to admit, she had a youthful charm, especially without any makeup, looking innocent in her school uniform. She fidgeted with the hem of her polo behind her back, looking down with a guilty expression. Ben, I'm so sorry about today. I had your letter tucked inside my chemistry folder, and I forgot to take it out before I handed it in. Oh, I said, a corner of my mouth twitching up. Right, forgot it. It didn't matter if it was true or not. I didn't care anymore. Ben, I'm applying to Riverwood State, she whispered, stepping closer and rising on her tiptoes to speak into my ear. If you work hard, I'll be waiting for you there. She glanced at me one last time, her face blushing, before hurrying back into the classroom. Damn, I sucked in sharp breath. For a split second, I almost fell for it again. That girl knew exactly what she was doing. I shook my head, quickly reciting my new mantra. Done with girls, time to build a future. The SATs were only a month away. In my past life, I bombed them. Ms. Albright, for all her tough-as-nails attitude, was right about one thing. Knowledge is the one thing you own that no one can ever take away from you. Life had taught me how true that was. This time, I'm going to ace those tests, not just for my parents, but for me. Ethan came over and threw an arm around my shoulders. Come on, man, let's go to the arcade. My treat. I shook my head. What arcade? The SATs are next month. I need to study. Whoa, did you hit your head? So Elena shot you down, big deal. You can't be this broken up about it. Ethan looked at me like I'd lost my mind. Even if you got into the same college as her, she'd never go for you. This isn't for Elena, I said firmly. It's for me. I grabbed a copy of a test prep book from my desk and shoved it in front of him. Look at this essay. Discuss a time your world became more vibrant and diverse. They haven't used a prompt like this in a couple of years. It's definitely going to be on the test this year. You should study up on how to write it. That's crazy. How could you possibly know that? I narrowed my eyes. Wanna bet? The look on my face made him back down. No way, man. I'm not betting with you. Ben, Mandy, and I are heading out for a bit. Could you grab us lunch? Thanks, Ben. As soon as the last morning class ended, Elena issued the order like a queen, then linked arms with her friend Mandy Clark and walked out. I remembered how, in my past life, an order like that would have made me feel proud and important. I would have scrambled to the cafeteria, happy to serve. God, I was such an idiot. I stood up, but Ethan immediately blocked my path. Where are you going? To the cafeteria. To eat. You gotta be kidding me. You're actually gonna get her lunch? Did she even give you money? What's the big deal? Can't a guy get his own lunch? I shrugged. Oh, come on. You're gonna get food for Elena? Why don't you ever get me lunch? Ethan grumbled, rolling his eyes. Fine, I'll bring you back something. I came back into the classroom, carrying 2 trays. Elena immediately beamed, holding out her hands. Ben, thank you so much. A small smile played on my lips. Thank me for what? Her eyes curved into crescents. For getting lunch for me and Mandy, of course. My smile widened. I didn't get lunch for you too. Oh, stop it, Mandy said impatiently. You already brought the food back. What's with the act? She reached out to grab one of the trays. I sidestepped her smoothly and walked back to my desk. Ethan, this is for you. Me? This is for real. Ethan stared at the tray of pizza and fries, dumbfounded. You actually got it for me? Duh. You just asked me to, didn't you? I said, snapping open a plastic fork and digging in. Thanks, man. Ethan shot a triumphant, smug look over at Elena and Mandy. Elena's hands clenched into fists, her brow furrowed. Ben, didn't you hear me earlier? I heard you, I said, my mouth full. Then why didn't you get us lunch? Her voice was getting louder, sharper. I shrugged. Because you didn't give me any money. Elena's eyes went wide. She'd never paid me for anything before. In her world, doing things for her was a privilege. How dare I ask for money? Then why did you get lunch for Ethan? Did he pay you? I nodded, my expression completely serious. Ethan treated me to the arcade yesterday. Getting him lunch is the least I could do. Yo! Ethan almost choked on his pizza, slinging an arm around my shoulder. We're hitting the arcade again tonight. My treat. I shook my head. No time, I've got to study. Seeing us ignore her, Elena's chest heaved with indignation. She ground out. Ben, I'm mad at you. Don't even bother talking to me again. With that, she stormed off. Mandy pointed a finger at me. Ben, you better apologize to Elena this afternoon, or else. First period after lunch was calculus. I opened my textbook, and the dense wall of formulas felt like a foreign language. A knot of panic tightened in my stomach. I could cram for history, but how was I going to tackle math and physics? Just then, an image of the SAT math section flashed in my mind. I could remember more than half of the questions, clear as day. Logically, after all these years, I should have forgotten everything. Maybe this was a perk of being reborn. But remembering the questions and knowing how to solve them were 2 different things. I needed help. As soon as the bell rang, I grabbed my textbook and walked toward the front row. Mandy was sitting there, admiring her reflection in a compact mirror. She saw me approaching and immediately nudged Elena. Lena, Ben's coming. Elena snorted, crossing her arms and lifting her chin defiantly. So what? He's not getting off the hook that easily for this morning. He needs to learn what happens when he makes me mad. Totally, Mandy agreed. Their voices were loud enough for me to hear every word. I walked right up to Elena's desk. She tilted her chin even higher. Didn't I tell you not to bother me again? I'm not here for you. I'm looking for the class president. I held up my textbook and turned to the girl sitting next to her. A friendly smile on my face. Clara, I was wondering if you could help me with a problem. Clara Jenkins, our class president, slowly looked up. She pushed her glasses, which must have been $1,000 prescription, up her nose. Her eyes, magnified by the thick lenses, held a clear note of surprise and confusion. Which one? This one right here, I said, pointing with my pen. She focused on the problem with intense concentration. I stood beside her, not wanting to break her focus. It was the first time I'd ever really looked at Clara. She wasn't a bombshell like Elena, but her features were delicate and her skin was clear. There was a unique kind of charm in her focused expression, something Elena could never match. In my past life, Clara and I barely interacted. She was completely dedicated to her studies, and I was completely dedicated to Elena. All I knew was that her family was rich. She got into Riverwood State without breaking a sweat, and a few years after graduation, she was working at her family's company and got married. A bona fide success story. The bell rang for the next class. Clara looked up apologetically. Oh, Ben, how about I explain it to you after school? Class is about to start. Sounds good. Thanks, Clara. As I turned to leave, I saw Elena glaring at me with a look that could kill. She was so furious, I almost considered saying something to smooth things over. Mandy pursed her lips, still pretending. Just apologize already. Elena's chin shot up again, a smug little humph escaping her nose. On second thought, I decided against it. With a slight smile, I walked back to my seat. A loud thud echoed from the front of the room. Elena had slammed her textbook on her desk. After school, Elena and Mandy were walking their bikes out of the school gate. Mandy sounded worried. Lena, Ben didn't say a single word to you all afternoon. Elena just smiled. Don't worry. I know him. He's like gum on your shoe. Impossible to get rid of. Okay, if you say so. See you tomorrow. See ya. After saying goodbye to Mandy, Elena hopped on her pink bicycle, eager to get home and watch the new episode of the OC. As she rode, her posture perfect and her hair flying in the wind, she looked like a movie star, bathed in the golden light of the setting sun, drawing glances from guys as she passed. She savored the attention. In her mind, she was the main character, and she deserved to be admired. Her perfect moment was short-lived. At an intersection, her bike chain suddenly slipped off. Her good mood vanished instantly. She pulled over and stared at the greasy, grimy chain, her brow furrowed in disgust. This was not a job for someone like her. I was on cleanup duty that day, so I left school a bit late. I was pedaling hard on my own bike, humming a tune. Being young again, with my parents also young and healthy, was an incredible feeling. All I wanted was to get home and see them. At the intersection, I saw Elena crouch down, poking at her bike chain with a stick. Even though I was over her, she was still a classmate. I couldn't just leave her stranded. I hit the brakes and stopped beside her. Elena, in trouble? She rolled her eyes. Ben, if you want to apologize, just apologize. You don't have to resort to such pathetic tricks. I was completely baffled. I scratched my head. What trick? Admit it. You messed with my bike chain, didn't you? She crossed her arms, her eyes sharp, as if she'd seen right through my supposed scheme. Break my chain just to accidentally run into me? You're so childish. A muscle in my jaw twitched. I felt a wave of second-hand embarrassment for her. Was she delusional, or did she really think the world revolved around her that much? You have way too much drama in your head. I take this route home every single day. Besides, I was cleaning the classroom all evening. I didn't have time to mess with your bike. Elena sneered, her tone imperious. Just get down here and fix it for me, and I'll forget this ever happened. Otherwise, don't ever expect me to talk to you again. I felt my eye twitch. Then I put my foot back on the pedal. Oh, look. The light's green. Gotta go. Elena shrieked. Get back here. Bye now. I didn't look back, just pedaled away. I was just getting to the entrance of my apartment complex when I saw a girl in a school uniform with a pink backpack standing there. It was Clara, the class president. Ben, she called, waving. Clara, what are you doing all the way out here? I asked, confused. She pulled her calculus book from her backpack. Ben, that problem you asked about? I figured it out. Ah, my jaw went slack. Clara, you could have just told me tomorrow. You didn't have to come all this way. No, look. Her expression was determined. She pulled out a pen and notebook and immediately started working through the solution, explaining each step. I felt like I had to pay attention. It was the least I could do after she'd come all this way. I sat down next to her and listened intently. As she explained, it was like a light bulb went on in my head. Math was like that. Once you understood one method, it unlocked others. Even though this wasn't an actual SAT question, solving it gave me the key to tackling the hardest problems on the test. Clara, you're a genius, I said, giving her a thumbs up. A proud smile graced her face. By the way, you live pretty far from here, right? How are you getting home? Didn't you ride? The least I could do was make sure she got home safely. No, it's fine. My family's driver is waiting for me, she said, waving her hand dismissively. My eye twitched. Right, I forgot she was rich. Clara packed her book away and then asked, So, Ben, tomorrow we have to finalize our college applications. Were you applying? At that time, you had to declare your college choices before you even took the SATs. Riverwood State, I said without thinking. A flicker of disappointment crossed her face. Is it because of Elena? I shook my head. No. The disappointment vanished instantly, replaced by a flash of joy that she quickly tried to hide by tucking a strand of hair behind her ear. Well, I should get going. If you have any more questions, feel free to ask me anytime. Will do. As I watched her walk away, a thought struck me. Riverwood State was just a decent public university. With Clara's grades, she could easily get into an Ivy League school or at least a top-tier private one. I'm thinking about how she came all the way to my apartment complex just to help me with a single math problem. A crazy thought popped into my head. Could she like me? No way. We barely knew each other. That was just my ego talking. Still, I called out to her. Hey, Clara. I'm applying to Riverwood State for me. She stopped and turned. Because I heard something yesterday that really stuck with me. Changing your life for someone else is a really stupid thing to do. I looked her straight in the eye. That's for me, and it's for you too. No matter what, we have to be ourselves, right? Her eyes narrowed slightly, then she smiled and waved. I will be myself. See you later. I waved back as she walked away toward a waiting black sedan and then headed into my building. I was reborn to live my own life, not to meddle in someone else's. As soon as I walked into the complex, I saw my mom. She was holding a bag of groceries, a knowing smile on her face. At this age, even in her she looked healthy and vibrant. Seeing her, I felt a rush of emotion. She threw an arm around my shoulder. So, son, who was that little lady? Oh, you wouldn't know her. Does she have a crush on you? No, it's not like that. Our home was a cramped, two-bedroom rental, less than square feet. The light was dim, the old furniture was chipped and peeling, and the floorboards were warped and damp. The air always smelled a little musty. It's so humid. It's probably going to rain again, my mom muttered as she headed to the kitchen with the groceries. I went straight to my room. Before doing anything else, I took a sticky note and a pen and wrote down 2 words: get into college. Make money. For most people, college was about getting a good job to make money. For me, it was about fixing the biggest regret of my past life and making my parents proud. As for making money, for someone who's been reborn, that part wouldn't be too hard. The next few years were full of opportunities. My dad, Daniel, came home from a shift at the plant carrying a small box of pastries. He was still in his work uniform, a bit overweight with a scruffy beard and messy hair. Sitting down to eat together as a family felt unbelievably good. The food tasted better than anything I could remember. My mom put a drumstick on my plate. Slow down, she chided gently. No one's going to steal it from you. Time is money. I mumbled through a mouthful of food. I gotta finish up and get back to studying. I don't have much time left. A look of concern crossed her face. Son, don't put so much pressure on yourself. Your health is what's important. I realized my sudden change in behavior was worrying her. I softened my tone. Don't worry, Mom. I'm fine. No pressure at all. My dad took a small sip of whiskey and asked, So, have you thought about which college you're applying to? Riverwood State, I blurted out. Cough. Cough. My dad choked on his drink. Even my mom's jaw tightened. As my parents, they knew my academic record inside out. If I buckled down for the last month, I might squeak by into some low-tier community college. Riverwood State? They couldn't even fathom it. My mom chose her words carefully. Son, maybe we should be a little more realistic. That's a pretty high bar. But my dad slammed his hand on the table, cutting her off. He's got ambition. Nothing is impossible if you put your mind to it. Dad believes in you. I puffed out my chest. Dad, this time I'm going to make you proud. I studied late into the night. The next morning, I was up early for a run. Your body is your greatest asset. Having died once, I understood that better than anyone. At breakfast, I could feel my parents watching me with baffled expressions, but I pretended not to notice. Explaining would be too complicated. After a quick shower, I threw on my school uniform and hopped on my bike. At the first traffic light, I ran into Ethan. He had dark circles under his eyes. Pulling all-nighter, dude? I asked. He glanced around conspiratorially. I found a new land center. $8 for the whole night. I shot him a look. The SATs are next month, and you're still pulling all-nighters. Ethan scoffed. Worst case, I take a gap year and try again. I don't think I have a shot this time anyway. If you actually study this time, I guarantee you'll get a decent score. Ethan was my best friend then, and in my past life. His life had been just as tough as mine. This time, if I could turn my life around, I had to bring him with me. As I got to the school gate, I saw Elena and Mandy. A tall guy was handing them breakfast. Elena looked a little flustered, blushing slightly. Mandy, however, took the bag of bagels without a second thought. Hey, we're all friends here. What's there to be embarrassed about? Mandy, what are you doing? I barely know him. Elena protested weakly. Mandy shot Elena a look, and Elena's head turned, her eyes meeting mine. She huffed, then turned back to the guy and took the breakfast. Her voice sickly sweet. It's so nice of you to get breakfast for me and Mandy. Thank you so much. The guy had longish hair and was decent looking. He smiled. Don't thank me. I'm just a delivery guy. Delivery guy? Both girls were stunned. Mandy asked, who's it from? That's a secret for now. Just know you'll have breakfast waiting for you every day from now on, he said before walking into the school. Elena looked back at me, holding up the bag of bagels. See, Ben? If you won't do it, someone else will. What's it got to do with me? I shrugged, completely bewildered, then whistled a tune as I pushed my bike through the gates. Behind me, I could hear them talking. Lena, have you noticed Ben seems like a totally different person? Elena scoffed. He's just playing hard to get, trying to act all cool and mysterious. The second I ignore him for a day, he'll come crawling back, begging for my attention. Oh, that makes sense. I mean, you're so pretty. How could he give up that easily? He's just trying a new strategy. I shook my head. So childish. In the classroom, I immediately saw Clara, already focused on her English vocabulary flashcards. The people with better grades than me were working hard. I had no excuse not to. I went back to my desk and started memorizing verbs. As the bell rang, Ms. Albright walked in holding a mug. The classroom fell silent. This next month is crucial. To help everyone focus, I'm going to change the seating chart. She planned to adopt a strategy from other senior classes, separating the troublemakers and pairing struggling students with high achievers. Ethan immediately slumped in his chair, trying to make himself invisible. He'd been planning to nap through most of the day. Ethan Miller, you're switching seats with Darren. Ms. Albright's authoritative gaze landed squarely on Ethan. Crap, just what he was afraid of. Ethan looked over at Darren in the third row. Darren's desk partner was Jenna, the top student in literature. I had to hand it to Ms. Albright. She knew what she was doing. Ethan's weakest subject was English, especially reading comprehension. She was putting him next to the best person to help him. What was strange, though, was that in my past life, there was no seating change. My rebirth must have already started to shift things. Ms. Albright, I don't want to sit next to Ben. Darren protested. His English grade had just started to improve. If he sat next to Ben for the last month, it would definitely tank. Ms. Albright's face hardened. Would you prefer to sit next to my desk? Darren immediately backed down, muttering as he gathered his books. Ethan looked devastated. It's over. My life is over. I rolled my eyes at him. It's just for 1 month. Study hard with Jenna helping you. If you put in even a little effort, your English grade is bound to go up. Ms. Albright continued rearranging the class. Ms. Albright, I suddenly raised my hand. She frowned. What is it? I'd like to change seats too, I said seriously. With your grades, it wouldn't matter where you sit. She shot back, her words blunt and cutting. A few students snickered. Aside, internally, had I really disappointed her that much? I guess it was my own fault. I'd been so obsessed with girls and video games that I hadn't cared about school. Even if I tried hard now, she'd just think I was cramming at the last minute. Seeing the dejected look on my face, a flicker of pity crossed her expression. "It's not that I don't want to move you," she said with a sigh. "But look around. Besides Ethan, who in this class would willingly sit next to you?" "I would," a soft voice piped up. Ms. Albright paused, looking at Clara in astonishment. It wasn't just her. The entire class was stunned. The class president wanted to be desk partners with Ben Carter? The top student and the bottom feeder? Was this a joke? Ms. Albright shook her head. "No, Clara. You're the only student in this class with a real shot at an Ivy League school. I will not let him drag you down." Clara's face flushed. "But I've seen Ben studying really hard lately. Why not give him a chance?" "Studying hard? You mean studying hard on how to write love letters to Elena?" The memory alone made Ms. Albright's blood boil. A few students laughed maliciously. Clara shook her head, looking helpless. Ms. Albright considered it for a moment. "All right, here's the deal. I'll move him there for 3 days. If he behaves and actually studies, he can stay. But the moment I see any sign of him distracting you, I'm moving him back." I quickly gathered my books and swapped seats with Clara's partner, Hazel. Hazel shot me a resentful glare. 3 days. In 3 days, we're switching back. I just smiled. "We'll see." Out of the corner of my eye, I saw Elena by the window. Her face was puffy and red with anger. Clearly, she was upset I hadn't asked to sit with her. Not that it mattered. If I had asked, she would have already planned out how to gracefully reject me. She loved stringing me along. But I wasn't that fool anymore. Ms. Albright passed out a stack of college application forms. In those days, you often had to declare your choices before the SAT scores came out. Everyone fill these out. This is just a preliminary declaration. I want them on my desk by the end of the day. I got my form, found the code for Riverwood State, and filled it in. "Ben, did you really put down Riverwood State?" Clara whispered, holding her pencil and staring at me intently. I pushed my form toward her. "See for yourself." The only school listed was Riverwood State. A strange look passed through her clear eyes. She smiled. "You seem pretty confident." I made a fist. "Absolutely. I was a man reborn. If I couldn't even get into Riverwood State, I might as well just give up." Clara hesitated for a moment, then wrote down Riverwood State on her own form. I frowned. "Clara, with your grades, you could get into Harvard or Yale, at the very least a top-tier school. Why would you choose a place like Riverwood State?" Her hand holding the pencil stiffened slightly, and the tips of her ears turned red. I chuckled quietly, lowering my voice. "I get it. Is there someone you like who's also applying to Riverwood?" I glanced over at the student government vice president, Liam, and grinned mischievously. "It's Liam, isn't it?" Liam was from a wealthy family, tall, handsome, and at the top of the class. No, wait, that doesn't make sense. With his grades and family background, he'd definitely be applying to an Ivy League. Then maybe it's Derek? My eyes lit up, looking at the guy sitting in front of Elena. "Derek, what school did you put down?" Elena asked, poking him with the end of her pencil. "Riverwood State." "You too?" "Me too." "Oh, would you just stop? I don't have a crush on anyone." Clara hissed. Her face beat red as she glared at me. That only made me more certain. "Look how red you are. I totally guessed it. You're applying to Riverwood State because of Derek." As soon as I said it, I paused. In my past life, Clara didn't end up marrying Derek. "Ben, are you done?" Clara snapped, her eyes welling up with tears. I was taken aback. She was way more sensitive than I thought. "Sorry, I was just kidding." I quickly apologized. She dabbed her eyes. Don't joke like that again." Okay, I won't." "Is your form filled out?" Ms. Albright's cold voice cut in. "Yes, ma'am." She took the form and scanned it, a cold smirk forming on her face. "Ben, can't you be a little more realistic? You think you can get into Riverwood State with your grades? The minimum SAT score for Riverwood is. Your practice test scores are barely breaking. How do you expect to get in?" She was fuming, convinced I was just messing around. I met her gaze. "There's still a month left to study. I can make it." Her eyes widened. "If you get into Riverwood State, I'll hang a banner for you from the top of the school building." I rubbed my nose. "That's not necessary, Ms. Albright. I don't like to be flashy." "You don't like to be flashy?" She burst out laughing, a sound devoid of humor. Ben, you have the entire class as your witness. I, Ms. Albright, will keep my word. I knew deep down she was trying to motivate me. She was always stern and quick to anger, but she was a dedicated teacher who genuinely cared about her students. A good teacher for sure. I spent the whole morning studying intensely. Keep pretending. Let's see how long you can keep this up, Elena muttered from behind me. I had no idea what she thought I was pretending about. The bell for lunch rang. I stretched and turned to Clara. Want to grab lunch together? She frowned, shaking her head slightly, her expression a mixture of pain and embarrassment. I creased my brow. Clara, what's wrong? She took a shallow breath. My stomach just hurts a little. You go ahead. Are you sure? Do you want me to take you to the nurse's office? No. I'm fine, she insisted. Ben, what are you waiting for? Ethan yelled from the classroom door. I asked her one more time. You're sure you're okay? I'm fine, she nodded. And then it clicked. It was that time of the month. I got up and headed out. I grabbed a quick bite and then headed straight for the school store. I picked out a pack of Always pads and a bottle of water and paid. Just as I walked out, Mandy came rushing around the corner and bumped right into me. The black plastic bag I was holding fell to the ground. Ow! Watch where you're going, she snapped, rubbing her chest. When she saw it was me, her anger flared. She was about to let me have it when she noticed a pack of pads on the ground. Oh, did Elena send you to get these? What are you talking about? I asked, picking up the bag and starting to walk away. Mandy pursed her lips. Still playing dumb, huh? You even remember her cycle. Wow, I nearly tripped. She's on her period too? I walked briskly back into the classroom. Give it to me, Elena said, holding out her delicate hand. Give you what? My eye twitched. The bag in your hand. She knew exactly what was in the black plastic bag. It's not for you. I walked straight back to my desk and tucked the bag into Clara's desk cubby. Clara's eyes went wide, and a deep blush spread from her face all the way down her neck. Ben, you. I just smiled and pulled out my English book, pretending not to notice. Elena's face turned deathly pale. If looks could kill, I'd have been dead 1,000 times over. Clara, meanwhile, was beet red. She opened her mouth to say something, but in the end just bit her lip, unwrapped a pad, and hurried out of the classroom. She didn't come back until right before the next class started. Ben, thank you, she whispered, her head down, her face a lovely shade of pink. I grinned. If you really want to thank me, you can help me study. She pursed her lips. If you're willing to learn, I'm willing to help. A warm feeling spread through my chest. Very few people in this school gave me the time of day. Clara, despite coming from a wealthy family and having stellar grades, wasn't disgusted by me. She was even willing to tutor me. For a second, my heart skipped a beat. Could it be that Clara was choosing Riverwood State because of me? The thought had no sooner formed than I dismissed it. Besides being decent looking, I had nothing going for me. There were plenty of guys in our class who were more impressive. Why would a girl like Clara from her background ever fall for a poor kid like me? A flustered tutor. During the afternoon study hall, Clara was incredibly patient in her tutoring, and I was an incredibly serious student. Maybe it was because I had been reborn, but my mind felt crystal clear. Concepts that had been hopelessly confusing before suddenly clicked into place with her explanations. Clara handed me a practice math test. Try this. You got it. Feeling thirsty, I picked up the bottle of water on the desk, twisted the cap, and took a few big gulps. Clara's eyes widened. Ben, what? That's my water, she said, her face turning a shade of pink. I realized then that she had already been drinking from it. It was a bit awkward, but seeing her blush, I suddenly had the urge to tease her. I winked. No wonder it tasted so sweet. I licked my lips for dramatic effect. You, she stammered, her face getting even redder. She turned away so fast, she almost buried her head in her desk. I chuckled and picked up my pen to start the test. She was so easily flustered, it was kind of adorable. Just before the end of the school day, I handed the completed test to Clara. After a quick scan, she looked up at me in shock. Did you cheat and look at the answer key behind my back? You gave me the test. Don't you have the answer key? I replied with a half smile. But you learned this so fast. That's because you're a good teacher. Really? She asked, her big, clear eyes blinking. She seemed genuinely happy. Yep, really. I nodded emphatically like a bobblehead. From behind, I could feel that murderous glare again. It was definitely Elena, but I ignored it. a ride home, and a family visit. After school, as I was packing up, Clara's dad called. Clara, honey, I have to go out of the country for a bit. The driver can't pick you up today. You'll have to take the bus home. Oh, okay, she replied, her voice filled with disappointment. What's with the long face? I asked, slinging my backpack over my shoulder. My dad's going on another business trip, she sighed. Though another says it all, I commented. Unlike my dad, who's never even been on a plane. Clara blinked her big, watery eyes and sighed again. My dad is using the car, so I don't have a ride home today. Without thinking, I said, I'll give you a ride. But that's so much trouble, she said. But she didn't refuse, and her cheeks turned a little pink. I raised an eyebrow. It would be my pleasure. My house is pretty far, though. No problem. I'm a pro on a bike. My bike was a mountain bike. It was the reward my dad got for quitting smoking for 3 months. We weren't allowed to ride bikes on campus, so I walked into the school gate with Clara by my side. We looked like a couple. Bella, do you think Ben has moved on? Not too far away, Mandy was watching us, questioning our relationship. No way, Elena said confidently. Clara is a total goody two-shoes. She would never date anyone. Besides, other than her money, what does she have that I don't? Despite her confident words, a seed of doubt had been planted in her mind. Since yesterday, Ben's attitude toward her had completely changed. Today, he wouldn't even buy her a bottle of water. She was starting to wonder if she was waiting for him to apologize, or if he was waiting for her. But she hadn't done anything wrong. Clara lived in the town center, about miles from the school. I pedaled as hard as I could, the chain practically smoking, and it still took me over minutes to get her to her gated community. It was summer, and my shirt was soaked with sweat. Ben, thank you, Clara said, her face red. I wiped the sweat from my forehead. No problem. I'm heading back now. She bit her lip. Do you want to come in for a bit? You could cool off in the AC. Bam. No thanks. If I'm not home soon, my parents will worry. I politely declined her offer and sped off on my bike. When I was a good distance away, I looked back and saw she was still standing there. By the time I got home, it was dark. My dad, Daniel, was on the balcony smoking and looking troubled. My mom was on the old sofa in the living room doing some piecework assembly to earn extra cash. I remember now, around this time, my dad had lost his job. My grandmother had kidney failure and needed constant medication and dialysis. Even though we were still managing to eat 3 meals a day, money was incredibly tight. My mom went to the kitchen to heat up dinner. Go eat, she said. Your dad made your favorite today, his famous chili. My dad's chili was legendary, spicy, savory, and perfect. The best parts were always saved for me. My parents always gave me the best of everything. My nose stung with emotion as I dug into my food. Hey, slow down, you'll choke, my dad chuckled. My mom asked, did you get your college application sorted today? I pulled the form out of my backpack and handed it to her. She took one look at it and frowned. Seriously? You really put down Riverwood State? My dad's tone was sharp. What? My son's not good enough for Riverwood State. That's not what I mean. I just think he should have a few backup options. What? Did he only put down one school? My dad snatched the form from her. His body went rigid. I swallowed a mouthful of food and said carefully, Dad, you don't believe in me either? He took a deep breath, placed the form on the table, and said gently, Son, maybe you should reconsider. My eye twitched. Just a few hours ago, he was all gung-ho about supporting me. Hypocrite. I thought about how, during my illness, my dad had developed a persistent cough and shortness of breath. I suspected he had lung problems. He didn't promise to quit smoking until I was on my deathbed. Dad, let's make a bet. If I get into Riverwood State, you quit smoking. Quit smoking. The memory of the 3 months he quit to buy me my bike made him shudder, but he quickly recovered. You're on. If you get into Riverwood State, I'll quit smoking and drinking. You promise? I slapped the table in excitement. He snorted. Look at you, all smug like you've already gotten in. My mom jabbed him in the arm. And who was it that was just saying they had complete faith in him? My dad grinned sheepishly. Hey, if the kid actually pulls it off, it'll be a miracle for the Carter family. For the next 3 days, I studied relentlessly. I paid attention in every class. I, who had never once raised my hand, was now eagerly volunteering to answer every question the teachers asked, and I always got them right. One day, Ms. Albright wrote the exact calculus problem on the board that I had first asked Clara about. This type of problem is very likely to appear on the SATs. Who can solve it? She asked, her eyes scanning the classroom. Every student shrank in their seat, praying not to be called on. Ms. Albright wasn't surprised. It was a difficult problem. Even Clara would probably have to think hard to solve it. Ms. Albright, I can solve it, I said, raising my hand. Let's have Clara solve this one, she said, completely ignoring me. Even though I had been making progress, she didn't believe I could solve such a complex equation. Ms. Albright, let Ben try, Clara said with confidence. He really knows how to do it. Ms. Albright was taken aback, but she nodded. All right, Ben, come on up. I walked to the front, picked up a piece of chalk, and started solving the equation. In less than 3 minutes, half the board was covered in my calculations. I didn't even pause once. Done, I said, placing the chalk back in the tray. Ms. Albright, is everything correct? She meticulously checked my work. It was flawless, not a single mistake. She stared at me, dumbfounded, as if looking at a monster. It was hard to believe this was the work of a student who had never passed a math test. She took a deep breath. It seems Clara's tutoring has had a significant impact on you. I smiled. Thank you for giving me this opportunity, Ms. Albright, and thank you, Clara, for your tireless help. A rare smile appeared on Ms. Albright's stern face. Very good. You may be seated. I hope you'll surprise me even more on the practice exam tomorrow. After class, Mandy came over to Elena's desk, glanced at me, and whispered, Bella, I think Ben has really changed. Elena lifted her chin smugly. Of course. How else is he going to get into Riverwood State and keep up with me? Mandy then asked, if he actually gets into Riverwood State, will you go out with him? Elena glanced at me again, hesitated for a moment, then tossed her head proudly. That depends on how he behaves. By the way, who is that guy who keeps bringing us breakfast? It's so mysterious. Who else could it be? One of my admirers. I hate it when they try to be all mysterious. Starting tomorrow, we're not accepting his breakfast anymore. I'm going to make Ben buy us breakfast. Okay, whatever you say. A cold soda and a new crush. I was playing basketball with a few guys from class. The June heat was sweltering. Ethan's jersey was soaked through. Hey, look, it's Elena, Ethan said, squinting toward a figure holding a can of ice-cold Coke. The other guys all turned. You think that Coke is for Ben? Who else would it be for? Ben's a lucky guy. The guys all looked at me with envy. I was a little surprised myself. In my past life, I didn't play basketball, and Elena never bought me a Coke. Could my rebirth have changed or two? Soon, Elena and Mandy walked onto the court. Elena held out the ice-cold Coke to me, smiling sweetly. You must be hot. I bought you a Coke to cool you down. I stared at her, stunned. If this had been my past life, I would have been over the moon. But now, thinking of how she never once visited me when I was dying, I just took a deep breath and looked down. Are you touched? Mandy asked, her chin held high. This is the first time Elena has ever bought a drink for a guy. It was as if this was the greatest honor I could ever receive. Ben. Just then, Clara walked over, carrying a whole case of water bottles. Her small frame struggled with the weight, and beads of sweat tied her forehead. Ethan quickly ran over and took the case from her. Clara, did you buy these for us? Clara snuck a glance at me, then nodded. You're the best, Clara. All right, everyone, water break. Ethan grinned, handing out the bottles. Thanks, Clara, you're awesome. Thanks. The guys all thanked her as they took the water. Elena looked like she had just swallowed a fly. She felt like Clara had stolen her thunder. Was she doing this on purpose? Mandy, seeing Elena's sour expression, said snidely, Wow, Clara, your family is so rich, and you only bought us water? Clara blushed and looked down. My mom says carbonated drinks are bad for your teeth. Only if you drink too much. A little bit is fine. Mandy retorted. Clara looked up at me. I can go get Cokes instead. No need to change. Water is great. I took a bottle from the case, twisted it open, and drank half of it in one go. The cold water was incredibly refreshing. That's better, I said with a satisfied sigh, smiling at Clara. Thanks, Clara. You're welcome, she whispered, her head down, a blush creeping up her neck. She was so shy. Ben. Elena's voice was sharp with anger. What? I feigned ignorance. Why didn't you drink the Coke I bought you? Her voice trembled, and her eyes were red, making her look pitiful. I cleared my throat. It's all the same, isn't it? Besides, I'm not a big fan of soda. Elena bit her lip. Ben, come play badminton with me. Before, I used to ask her to play all the time, and she always said no. Now she was asking me. What was going on? I noticed her eyes were darting towards Clara. I suddenly understood. She was marking her territory. Huh. Now that I had moved on, she was suddenly interested. And Clara? Clara looked a little disappointed. Could she really like me? No way. I shook my head. No thanks, I have to study later, I said, turning her down. I was no longer the puppy that came running whenever she called. Elena was stunned. Again. Clara, you should find a shady spot to rest, I said, turning to walk back onto the court. Clara. She called me Clara. Her eyes widened, her mouth agape. Did you hear that, Bella? He called her Clara. Mandy's eyes were wide too. It was too familiar. High schoolers back then were more reserved. Any term of endearment could set imaginations running wild. So what? He calls me Bella, Elena said, trying to sound nonchalant, but her eyes betrayed her anxiety. He hadn't just rejected her Coke, he'd rejected her invitation to play badminton. She was worried he might actually give up on her, which would be a huge blow to her ego. Clara found a spot under a shady tree to watch me play. Her face was flushed, her expression a mix of confusion and something else. After the game, I walked straight over to her, wiped the sweat from my brow, and grinned. So, was I cool, huh? She looked up, her face still pink. Our eyes met for a second before she quickly looked away. Very cool, she mumbled. I was tall, with sharp features and a mess of dark hair. My eyes held a depth that was unusual for my age. Oh, I think so too, I said, striking a pose. You're so conceited, she said, turning to walk back toward the school building. Hey, Clara, want to play badminton? I called after her. He called me Clara again. Her face turned even redder, and she walked faster. A new mission. I went to the locker room to change, then went back to the classroom to study with Clara. As we were deep in our books, a girl with a ponytail walked up to our desk. Clara, can I ask you a question about chemistry? The girl asked nervously, her voice soft. Of course, Clara said, smiling up at her. I looked up too. My blood ran cold. It was Lila Evans, one of the poorest kids in our class. On the day of the SATs, she was assaulted by a taxi driver. When the police found her body, it was unrecognizable. The DNA of several men was found. By the time I died in my past life, her attackers had never been caught. Her family went broke trying to find them, but they never got justice. My breathing became shallow, my knuckles turning white as I gripped my pen. Ben, could you move for a second? Clara asked, seeing my expression. She thought I was being difficult. She turned to Lila. Let's go over by the window. Lila nodded meekly. No, it's fine. You can sit here, I said, getting up. Thank you, Lila said with a shy smile. I took a deep breath and looked at her for a moment longer before finding an empty seat by the window. My rebirth had already started to change things, but some events were still on their original course. Lila's tragedy was likely still going to happen. I had to save her. Perhaps this was one of the reasons I was brought back. With Clara's patient explanation, Lila's confusion cleared. Thank you, Clara, I get it now. You're welcome. If you have any more questions, feel free to ask, Clara said sweetly. I will, Lila said, her eyes shining with tears of gratitude. Because she was poor, she was very introverted and didn't have many friends. She had tried to ask another top chemistry student for help, but they had made an excuse. Seeing how patient Clara was with me, she had gathered the courage to ask, and Clara had readily agreed. Lila, I said, returning to my seat. Yes, she replied, looking at me obediently. Ben, thank you for letting me use your seat. Why don't you live in the dorms? I asked. Lila lived far from school, which was why she had to take a taxi on the day of the SATs. If she lived at school, she might be safe. My parents work out of state, and my grandma had a stroke and is paralyzed. I have to take care of her, she explained, her head down. But what about when you're at school? Clara asked. A kind neighbor helps look after her during the day, but at night it's just me. The bell rang. Clara, Ben, thank you again. I have to go home and make dinner for my grandma, Lila said, rushing off. No wonder she's so frugal. She never even takes the bus, Clara remarked. I twirled my pen, my mind racing. With her grandmother to care for, dorm life was out of the question. Besides, the dorm fees at a magnet school like this weren't cheap. The only way was to stop her from taking a taxi on the day of the test. Ben, can you give me a ride home? Clara asked, packing her books. Sure, I said with a smile. But you have to buy me a Coke. I thought you didn't like Coke? Depends on who's buying. What's the difference? There's a big difference. Now let's go. I slung my backpack over my shoulder and walked out. Clara pushed her glasses up her nose, a pretty smile gracing her lips. At the Maple Creek Apartments, a red Ford Taurus was parked out front. My dad, Daniel, was there, his hair slicked back, wearing a white button-down tucked into slacks. His black leather shoes were polished to a mirror shine. I pulled up on my bike. Seeing the car, I knew what was happening. My dad had borrowed it to pick up my uncle's family from the airport. Go help your mom with dinner. I'm going to the airport to get your uncle, he said, clapping me on the shoulder before getting in the car. As he drove off, I sighed. Back at home, my mom said, Ben, can you clean up the living room? What's the point? I muttered. What did you say? Nothing. I grabbed the broom. In my past life, my uncle had come to visit too. I had cleaned the apartment until it was spotless, but my aunt still complained that it was dirty. They weren't here to visit family. They were here to show off the little bit of money they had made. Around, my dad arrived with my uncle Michael, his wife, Carla, and their 2 kids. Ben, your uncle's here. Go make some tea, my dad said. Uncle Michael was wearing a white short-sleeve shirt, holding a Samsung flip phone in one hand, a new watch on his other wrist. Daniel, you can afford a car like this, but you can't afford a decent apartment, my Aunt Carla said as she walked in. She was in her late S, her face caked in foundation. She was a petty, mean-spirited woman. This place is just for while Ben's in school. Once he gets into college, I'll think about buying him a place, my dad said, forcing a smile. Aunt Carla fanned herself with her hand. And no air conditioning? You guys are really pinching pennies. My dad quickly brought a fan out from his bedroom. I didn't want to deal with them, but I had to come out of my room. Ben, you don't recognize me? Uncle Michael asked, frowning. I recognize you. Oh yeah? Who am I? Uncle Michael. Then why didn't you greet me and your aunt? He said, his voice rising in anger. Aunt Carla added with a sneer. Did you learn any manners in school? In the kitchen, my mom slammed her knife down on the cutting board. My uncle shot his wife a look, but she didn't seem to notice. Like father, like son. You haven't done a very good job raising him. My dad forced a laugh. I'll talk to him later. And your kids are so well behaved. I shot back. Did Brittany and Kevin say hello to my parents? You. Aunt Carla's face flushed with anger. Are you talking back to me, you little brat? I'm not talking back. I'm just stating a fact. Aren't your kids getting a top-notch education in the city? How are their manners so terrible? I didn't hold back. In my past life, when I didn't get into college, they had humiliated me and my parents endlessly. When I was sick, my dad had begged my uncle for money, and not only did he refuse, he hit my dad and called me a good for-nothing who deserved to die. I wanted nothing to do with that kind of family. Don't you dare compare yourself to my children, she seethed. My daughter's at the top of her class. She's a shoo-in for Riverwood State. And you? I hear your grades are terrible. You'll be lucky to get into community college. You're destined to be a leech on society. My dad's eyes flashed with anger at her words. My mom came out the kitchen, her voice cold. Carla, if you're here as a guest, you're welcome. But if you're here to start a fight, you can leave. Humiliating her and my dad was one thing, but she wouldn't stand for them insulting her son. Aunt Carla glanced at the large kitchen knife in my mom's hand and swallowed hard. If you say another word about my son, I won't be so polite, my mom said before returning to the kitchen. Aunt Carla was fuming. Uncle Michael patted her arm. You know what they're like. They're uneducated. Don't stoop to their level. But I seemed to calm down, hearing my mom stand up for me. A smile spread across my face. In my past life, I hadn't said anything, and my aunt hadn't been so vicious, but my mom had always been my fierce protector. At dinner, the atmosphere was tense. Brittany, you're applying to Riverwood State too? My dad, Daniel, asked, trying to break the silence. Brittany looked surprised. Too. Is Ben applying to Riverwood State? My dad nodded. It's the only school he put down. Brittany burst out laughing. My dad's face turned red. What? You don't think your cousin can get in? Uncle Daniel, very few students from Northwood High get into Riverwood State, she said, trying to stifle her laughter. Ben's grades have never been good. He never even tells us his scores, and he only applied to one school? Just, I don't get it. The condescension in her voice was thick. My parents couldn't say a word because they knew it was true. Seeing the look on their faces, Aunt Carla's mood instantly improved. Brittany, don't be so hard on him. You'll get us kicked out. My younger cousin, Kevin, who was in middle school, put down his fork. So what if we get kicked out? This food sucks anyway. My mom gripped her fork, ready to say something, but a look from my dad stopped her. For his sake, she swallowed her anger. But I wouldn't. The hotel is just down the street. Maybe you should eat there, my uncle sneered. My dad hasn't said anything. Who are you to kick us out? I saw it. Uncle Michael, let's be honest. You're not here to see us. You made some money in the city, and you came here to rub it in our faces. A few years ago, my uncle had made a small fortune selling bootleg DVDs and had bought a house and a car in the city. He didn't have much going on now, but he still had some savings. Uncle Michael took a sip of his wine. I haven't made much, just enough to buy a couple of cars. A couple of cars like the one he was driving would be worth almost $. My dad's eyes lit up. What you're doing is so profitable. Let me in on it. Uncle Michael smiled. You're doing pretty well yourself, aren't you? You didn't have a car last year. Well, my dad took a big gulp of his wine. I borrowed this car from my boss. Aunt Carla burst out laughing. So you're just pretending to be rich. Just a moment ago she had thought my dad was actually successful. Now she knew the truth. Daniel, I don't mean to be rude, but if you're broke, just be broke. Why pretend? You'll set a bad example for your son. My mom's face was burning. She shot my dad a look that could kill. You may not have any shame, but what about me? What about our son? My dad just laughed it off. Michael, seriously, if you have any opportunities, let's work together. We can make it big, so those people back home won't look down on us anymore. Daniel, you might be mistaken. They only look down on you, not me. Uncle Michael said with a smirk. We're brothers. Can't you help me out? My dad pleaded. You make your own destiny, Uncle Michael said coolly. So Ben was right. You're just here to show off, my dad said, his voice flat. Watching my dad humble himself like that was painful. He was a proud man. He always taught me to have self-respect, to rely on myself. But when it came to providing for his family, pride and dignity went out the window. I made a promise to myself then and there. I would make a lot of money. I would buy my parents a mansion, a luxury car. I would make my uncle look up to them. I'm not here to show off. I'm here to inspire you. After dinner, my dad and I walked them to the parking lot. My uncle lit a cigar and clapped me on the shoulder. It's okay if you don't get into college. I have a construction site. You can come work there. Don't worry, Uncle Michael. I will get into Riverwood State, I said with a calm smile. I had been through too much to let my emotions get the best of me. Have you ever considered that even if you get into Riverwood State, you might not be successful? Not everyone who goes to college makes it big. Uncle Michael, I said, looking him straight in the eye. Have you ever heard the saying, don't underestimate a young person's potential? He chuckled. So you think you're going to be a big shot someday, and I should start kissing up to you now? It's getting late. You should get some rest, I said with a breezy smile. There was no point in arguing. I would let my success speak for itself. After they left, my dad lit a cigarette. Son, I embarrassed you and your mom today. I put my arm around his shoulder. You did it for us. We'll get our dignity back. Exactly. See, this is what happens when you don't have money. People look down on you. That's why you have to go to college and make something of yourself. Who says my dad isn't successful? One day I'll show them just how amazing my dad is. A teacher's pride and a confession. After my uncle's family left, I studied even harder. I woke up at every morning to run, studied for an hour, ate breakfast, and went to school. I came home, ate dinner, and studied until midnight. The days flew by. Before I knew it, there were only 5 days left until the SATs. Ms. Albright stood at the front of the class, her expression grave. 5 days left. You've all been working hard. I believe you can all get into the colleges of your dreams. She pushed her glasses up her nose and looked at me. And I especially want to commend Ben. In the last few practice tests, his scores have been excellent. Not just excellent, they were unbelievable. She didn't even dare to announce my scores. Who would have thought that the kid who used to fail every subject could be getting near perfect scores after just 1 month of studying? She was afraid if she told anyone, I'd be taken away for scientific research. The other students all looked at me with a mix of envy and disbelief. For these last 5 days, you can study at home. The test is on June th. Be at the testing center early. She gave a long, passionate speech about how a good college would open up so many doors, citing examples of former students who had gone on to great success. The students listened, their eyes full of hope. Of course, not everyone will get into college, she continued, her tone more serious. I'm not trying to discourage you, but I want you to be prepared. And for those who don't get in, don't lose hope. I've had many students who took a gap year, studied hard, and got into top universities. Ms. Albright, do you think I can get into Riverwood State? Elena suddenly asked, raising her hand. All eyes turned to her. Don't get complacent, but your chances are very good, Ms. Albright replied vaguely. Elena had done well on the practice tests, but she didn't want her to slack off. A confident smile spread across Elena's face. She had been studying hard too, and she was sure she would get in. She shot me a look, a hint of pride in her eyes. And just like that, high school was over. A month had passed since my rebirth, and it was time to see the results of my hard work. I was confident I would get into Riverwood State, and that was just the beginning. Ben, this is for you. Clara, who was already packed up, shyly handed me a pink note folded into the shape of a heart. What's this? I looked up at her, but she had already run out of the classroom. A love letter? Could she have fallen for me in just 1 month? Just as I was about to open it, Ethan slammed his hand on my desk. Ben, let's go. All-night LAN party. My treat. Are you serious? The test is in days. I rolled my eyes. Did you study that essay prompt? I looked at it for a few days, but there's no guarantee it'll be on the test. As long as you looked at it. Ben, if that's the essay prompt, I'll build a shrine to you, he said with a grin. I'm not sure, but it can't hurt to be prepared, I said, not wanting to reveal how I knew. Ben. Elena walked up to my desk. What's up? I glanced at her. Thank you for being so good to me these past 2 years, she said with a shy smile. For a second, I thought she was about to confess her feelings, but I just said, get to the point. She tucked her hair behind her ear, her smile sweet and innocent. I just wanted to tell you that even if you get into Riverwood State, I'm not going to go out with you. Are you okay? Do you still think I'm applying to Riverwood State because of you? I had to laugh. Hadn't my attitude for the past month made it clear? I know you're too embarrassed to admit it, but it's okay. I just wanted to be clear. She looked down on me, her tone dripping with arrogance. Even with Clara's help, you'll be lucky to get into a community college. Riverwood State is out of your league. BM. Ethan slammed his fist on my desk. Elena, have you no shame? Ben has done nothing but be good to you. Why are you trying to hurt him like this? As my best friend, he knew how I had treated her, how I had given up everything to please her only to be treated like dirt in return. And now she was trying to crush his spirit. Hurt him? Does he have any spirit left to crush? Was it spirited to read a love letter in front of the whole class? She scoffed. She looked at me, surprised to see my calm expression. He wasn't lashing out, wasn't even angry. It was strange. Are you done? I asked, my voice even. Not yet. Let's make a bet. If you get into Riverwood State, I'll go out with you. How about that? A playful smile danced on her lips. She was so sure I would fail. She wanted to see me crash and burn. Fine, I said with a smile. She was taken aback. She didn't think I would actually agree. Does he have any self-awareness? But it didn't matter. There was no way he could get into Riverwood State. And even if he did, she wouldn't give him the time of day. Well then, I'll be waiting, she said with a smirk before turning and walking out of the classroom where a few of her friends were waiting. They all burst out laughing. A revelation and a race against time. Ben, you okay? Ethan asked, concerned. I'm fine. I've got thick skin, I said with a grin. I knew what she was going to say before she even said it. I could have just ignored her, but I chose to play along. In my past life, I hadn't gotten into Riverwood State, and I had become a laughingstock. Even years later, at class reunions, people would bring it up to humiliate me. I made this bet so that when I did get into Riverwood State, I could rub it in her face. School let out early that day. When I got home, my parents weren't there. I grabbed a Coke from the fridge, sat on the sofa, and nervously opened Clara's note. A love letter? No, probably just a note of encouragement. I unfolded it. The handwriting was neat and beautiful. Hi Ben, remember what you said before? That changing your life for someone else is a really stupid thing to do? Do you think a stupid person like that might appear in your world? See you at Riverwood State. My mind went blank. I had lived 2 lives. I knew what this meant. She was this stupid person. She was changing her life for me. That's why she, with her Ivy League grades, was going to Riverwood State. In my past life, we had barely spoken, but she had still chosen Riverwood State for me. The reason she went to all those class reunions was probably to see me. But I had been so obsessed with Elena that I had never even looked at her. Now that I had been reborn, we had gotten to know each other, and she had found the courage to confess. My heart pounded in my chest. I suddenly understood another reason I had been brought back. Clara had married someone she didn't love, and she hadn't been happy. It was a regret that I had caused. My own early death, my parents' grief. These were all regrets from my past life. I took a deep breath. Clara, I whispered, I'll see you at Riverwood State. On June it was raining. I was up at. I had to get to Lila before she got in that taxi. I had found out where she lived. It would take at least an hour to get there by bike. I put on a raincoat and pedaled as fast as I could. At Sunny Creek, a small, impoverished village, Lila was running late. Her grandmother hadn't been feeling well, and she had to go to the clinic in the next village to get her medicine. It was too late to walk to the testing center now. She had to take a taxi. She grabbed her backpack, splashed some water on her face, and ran out of the house. She stood on the side of the road, hoping to catch a bus, which was cheaper. But after minutes, no bus had come. Just then, a black sedan pulled up beside her. Hey, kid, you going to the SATs? The driver, a heavy-set man in sunglasses, asked. Lila nodded warily. Hop in. It's only $1 to the testing center. A special for students, he said with a friendly smile. I think I'll wait, she said. It was a private car, not a taxi. She didn't feel safe. Boom. Thunder crashed overhead, and she jumped. Come on, get in. I'm not a bad guy. It's about to pour. You don't want to miss your test, do you? She looked around. There were no other cars. The test wouldn't wait for her. If she missed it, she would be letting down everyone in her village who had supported her. After a moment of hesitation, she reached for the door handle. Lila, a voice called out from the distance. A bicycle was speeding toward them. Are you getting in or not? I'm leaving, the driver said impatiently. Hi, I think my friend is here, she stammered. It sounded like Ben, but she couldn't be sure. The driver's eyes glinted behind his sunglasses. He got out of the car and walked around to her side. Lila immediately tensed, sidestepping his outstretched hand. What are you doing? She asked, her voice trembling. Get in, he said, his voice low and menacing. He grabbed her arm. Hey, let her go, I yelled, pedaling with all my might. The driver shoved her into the car. I told you I'm not a bad guy. I'm just trying to help you get to your test. He slammed the door shut. Lila pounded on the window. Let me out. Help. The driver got back in, pulled a knife from under his seat, and hissed, Shut up, or I'll gut you. Lila froze, her body shaking. Crunch. My bike slammed into the front of his car. I was holding a brick I had picked up along the way. Get out of the car. Get out now, I warned. The driver rolled down his window. Get lost, kid, before I run you over, he snarled, revving the engine. Smash. I brought the brick down on his head. He slumped over, dazed. He shook his head, then slammed the car into drive and lurched toward me. Crack. I smashed the brick into his windshield, shattering it. Blind with rage, he got out of the car with a knife in his hand. Ben, run. Lila screamed, her face pale with terror. Seeing the knife, a jolt of fear shot through me. This was a rural area with no cameras, but this was the first meaningful thing I had done since being reborn. I had to save her. I've already called the police. You can still get away. I bluffed, backing away. He lunged at me with the knife. I dodged, and as he stumbled, I brought the brick down on his hand. He cried out in pain, dropping the knife, and swung at me with his fist. The punch landed squarely on my jaw, and my head snapped back. Adrenaline surged through me, and I dropped the brick and tackled him. We wrestled in the mud on the side of the road. Honk, honk. A white BMW pulled up, the horn blaring. Ben, a voice from inside the car said. What's he doing here? A girl with short hair in the passenger seat turned to the driver. Jasper, you have to help him. A young man got out of the car and walked toward us. You meddling little brat. I'm going to kill you. The driver had me pinned, his hands wrapped around my throat. I couldn't breathe. My vision started to go dark. I had overestimated my own strength. Hey, you planning on committing murder in broad daylight? A smooth voice said from behind him. The driver turned to see a handsome man in a tailored suit. You want to be a hero too? He sneered. The man glanced at the car and saw Lila, her face streaked with tears. He immediately realized what was happening. He tightened his grip on the umbrella in his hand, and in one swift motion kicked the driver in the side of the neck. The man crumpled to the ground, unconscious. "So much for a tough guy," the man said, pulling me to my feet. "You okay?" "I'm fine," I coughed, then ran to the car and unlocked the doors. Lila stumbled out and threw her arms around me, sobbing. "Ben, thank you." I stood there frozen, then awkwardly patted her on the back. "It's okay, you're safe now." I turned to thank the man, but the BMW was already gone. Inside the car, Clara stared blankly out the window. The image of Ben and Lila embracing burned into her mind. "You seem upset," her brother, Jasper, said, taking a drag from a cigarette. "I'm fine," she mumbled. "Just focus on the test. Get into a good school," he said, flicking his cigarette out the window. The SATs and the scrutiny. At Northwood High, the testing center was buzzing with students. I had bought a change of clothes at a nearby mall and, with Clara and Lila, made it to our testing rooms just before the bell rang. Ms. Albright was waiting for me outside. "Ben, what happened to your face?" she asked, seeing the bruises. "My chain broke. I took a fall," I said, my voice muffled from the swelling. She didn't press. "The proctors are all from the State Department of Education. Don't be nervous. Just do your best." "I will. I've already got the banner ready," she said, a small smile playing on her lips. "I'm just waiting for your scores." I laughed. "I was just kidding about that." "I wasn't," she said, her expression serious. I meant every word. My transformation had impressed her. I was one of the few students in her class with a real shot at Riverwood State. If I got in, a banner would be a badge of honor for her, not a source of ridicule. "I won't let you down, Ms. Albright." "I know I won't." The first test was English. The first thing I did was flip to the essay section. The prompt was, "Discuss a time your world became more vibrant and diverse." I smiled. With my life experience, this would be a breeze. I finished the test in an hour and was the first person to walk out of the testing center. The school entrance was crowded with anxious parents. "He's out already? He must have left it blank. What a waste." I feel sorry for his parents. If he were my son, I'd break his legs. "Hey, Daniel, doesn't that kid look like your son?" a man said to my dad, who was standing nearby. My dad had gotten the day off from his part-time job and had come to wait for me. He squinted. "No, my son's not that swollen, and he wasn't wearing those clothes this morning." But as I got closer, his face fell. It was me. "Ben," he called out. "Dad, what are you doing here? Your face. Did you get into a fight?" "Fight? Chain broke." I repeated my story. He ruffled my hair, his voice full of self-blame. "I should have driven you." Then his expression hardened. "Why are you out so early? Did you just give up?" "Give up?" "Dad, it was easy." He knew I wouldn't just give up. He had seen how hard I had been working. "So, what do you think you got?" he asked nervously. "No problem." The parents around us scoffed. "I'm serious," my dad said, his eye twitching. "So am I said with a smile. The essay alone was a guaranteed high score. The rest was easy. "We'll see when the scores come out," I said, tired of the judgmental stares. Let them talk. They'd be eating their words soon enough. The next test was the same. An hour in, and I was out. My dad just stood there, silently smoking. At lunch, Ethan came running up to me. "Ben, you're my hero. You're my dad." He gave me a bear hug. "Get off me, you weirdo," I said, pushing him away. "Oh, hi, Mr. Carter," he said, blushing when he saw my dad. "Come on, boys, lunch is on me," my dad said, leading the way to a nearby diner. "Ben, the essay really was that prompt. I think I got a pretty good score." Ethan was ecstatic. A good essay score could be the difference between getting into a good college and not. "See? I told you. You'll get into a good school," I said, punching him playfully on the arm. "Maybe not Riverwood State, but a good school nonetheless." "Hey, have you seen Clara?" I asked suddenly. "No. Why? Are you too?" he said with a sly grin. "Shut up. Just asking." My dad was quiet during lunch. I could tell he was still worried. Maybe I should have stayed in the testing room longer. The afternoon tests were the same. An hour, and I was done. This time, there was a news crew from a local TV station outside. "Excuse me, are you the student who's been finishing every test in an hour?" a reporter asked, shoving a microphone in my face. Yeah, that's me," I said, a little embarrassed. Can we ask you a few questions? Sure. Did you actually answer questions, or did you just give up? I answered all of them. They were just really easy, I said confidently. One more question, she said with a smirk. Did you get those bruises on your face for being so arrogant? The parents around us laughed. She was clearly trying to make me look bad. I fell off my bike, I said calmly. Well, you should be more careful next time, she said, her tone condescending. So, did you find the test difficult? Not at all, I said with a smile. If she wanted me to be arrogant, I would be arrogant. Can we get your contact information? We'd like to do a follow-up interview when the scores come out. Sure. Here's my dad's number. I didn't have a phone. She took down the number, a smug look on her face. She was probably already planning the story about the cocky kid who failed miserably. Just as the interview was ending, Ms. Albright walked up with Clara and a few men in suits. They were from the police department. Are you Ben Carter? One of the men asked. Yes. Do you know this man? He showed me a picture of the driver from that morning. No. Are you sure? We got into a fight this morning. Does that count as knowing him? I said, my voice steady. The man's eyes narrowed. My calmness seemed to make him suspicious. Would you mind coming down to the station with us? Sure. Clara and I were taken to the police station. Ms. Albright came with us. After a long interrogation, I told them everything. One last question, the detective said. You and Clara aren't close friends. Why would you ride your bike all the way to her village on the morning of the SATs? I realized they thought I was involved with the driver. Lila is very poor, I explained. She usually walks to school and is often late. I was worried she wouldn't make it to the test on time, so I went to get her. The detectives conferred for a moment. They had checked my story, and it all lined up. They let us go? Outside the station, Lila was pale. The police had told her that the driver was a serial rapist who had assaulted 5 other girls. If I hadn't shown up, she would have been his next victim. Ms. Albright was shaken too. Lila, you have to be more careful, she said, holding her hand. Lila just nodded, too scared to speak. Ms. Albright turned to me, her eyes full of pride. Ben, you're a hero. I'm going to nominate you for a Civic Courage Award. Everyone should know what you did. I had risked my life to save someone, and I had just brushed it off as falling off my bike. She used to see me as a troublemaker. Now she looked at me like a son. To see a wrong and not do something about it is to be a coward, I said, quoting an old saying. We're taught to be good citizens. It's our duty to help others. She looked at me, amazed. The change in me was truly remarkable. Clara looked at me too, a strange light in her eyes. Ms. Albright treated us to dinner and got Lila a hotel room for the night. World of Warcraft and the big bet. I was about to head home when I ran into Ethan. Ben, where have you been? The police station. What? Did you get caught cheating? Do I look like I need to cheat? I told him the whole story. He just laughed. Dude, you should be a writer. You have a great imagination. Whatever, man. Believe what you want. He threw an arm around my shoulder. I found a new arcade. Let's go. I have to go home. No way. I got us a room. We're celebrating. We played games until midnight. 2 days of testing passed. I didn't see Clara once. I saw Elena a couple of times, but she ignored me. I waited for Ethan outside the testing center, but Clara never came out. She must have left through the back entrance. I sighed. I guess I would have to wait until we got to Riverwood State. Hey, Bella, look. Ben's waiting for you, Mandy said as they came out of the school. Elena covered her face. Don't even mention his name. You know he's infamous now, right? She didn't want anyone to know they were classmates, let alone that he was waiting for her. Finishing the test in an hour? Even Clara couldn't do that. He must have just given up. Their paths were diverging. Mandy stuck her tongue out. He's still a classmate. Aren't you going to say hi? I've been ignoring him for 2 days. If I talk to him now, he'll think he still has a chance, she said with a laugh. I didn't hear what they said, but I could see the pity in Mandy's eyes. Elena was probably being delusional again. I just shook my head. Ethan finally came out. Hey man, you waiting for me? Who else? I said, not wanting to admit I had been waiting for Clara. Come on, let's go play some World of Warcraft. WoW was about to blow up. In my past life, I'd been too broke to play, too busy trying to please Elena. This time, I was going to play to win and to make some money. Dude, that game is so boring. It's all about grinding. Let's play Counter-Strike, Ethan said. Do you want to make money playing video games? I asked. Of course. That's the dream, right? I'm not talking about a few $100 for a rare item, I said, looking him straight in the eye. I'm talking about real money. How much is real money? I held up one finger. $8,000. I shook my head. 10,000. I shook my head again. Let's set a small goal. A small goal? Ethan looked at me like I was crazy. He touched my forehead, then his own. Are you running a fever? His dad owned a small business and only made about 1,000 a year. 100,000 was a fortune. Just trust me, I said. If I hadn't been reborn, I would have thought I was crazy too. We went to our usual spot, a rundown internet cafe in an old grain silo. It smelled of sweat, smoke, and instant noodles. Hey Ben, a kid named Kyle said as I was locking up my bike. He had been kicked out of school for fighting. In my past life, he had gotten a girl pregnant, gotten kicked out of another school, and ended up in jail for robbery. But I had a soft spot for him. A few years later, my dad had gotten into a drunken brawl, and Kyle showed up with a group of his friends to defend him. This time, I was going to change his future. Out of money again? I asked. You know me, he said with a grin. Come on, I'll treat you, but next time you get caught, don't use me as your alibi. He had gotten me into trouble with his mom more than once. You got it, Ben. We went inside and logged on. I had a message from Elena. Are you free tomorrow? I'd like to treat you to dinner. Sorry, I'm busy, I typed back. I knew she just wanted to thank me, but I didn't want to give her the wrong idea. I was already interested in someone else. I opened my friends list and found Elena's screen name, Broken Angel. I hadn't messaged her in over a month, and she had never replied. I hesitated for a moment, then moved her to my classmates group. Instead of deleting her, I found Clara's screen name, Ice Princess, and sent her a friend request. I waited for minutes, but she didn't accept. I opened the World of Warcraft website. A colleague in my past life had made a decent living playing this game. This was my chance to get in on the ground floor. Ethan and I teamed up to fight some monsters. Any good drops tonight? I asked. Nothing, not even a green, he grumbled. The drop rate was unusually low. The whole server was complaining. Hey look, there's a rare spawn up there, I said, pointing to the corner of the screen. A high-level warrior was fighting a powerful boss. It was a member of the Horde, the top guild on the server. You're not thinking of, Ethan said, his eyes wide. His guild was ranked 8th. He didn't want any trouble. I'm not in a guild, I said. I had quit when I started chasing Elena. Even if I stole the kill, they would never find me. I'll be your lookout, he said, standing behind me to block the security camera. I waited until the boss's health was low, then I attacked the warrior. He was so focused on the boss that he didn't have time to react. I finished him off, then killed the boss. A legendary sword appeared. Oh, Thunder Fury, Ethan stammered, his jaw on the floor. I was so excited I almost forgot to loot it. Holy crap, a Thunder Fury, the cafe owner, a big guy with tattoos named Manny, said, dropping his cigarette. He was a serious player, but he had only ever dreamed of seeing one. Quick, grab it and log off, he yelled. I snapped out of my daze, looted the sword, and logged out. The Thunder Fury was one of the rarest items in the game. It was worth a fortune. We're rich, Ben. We're rich, Ethan yelled, shaking me. Manny looked at us with a greedy glint in his eye. A Thunder Fury could sell for over $. If he wasn't in his own cafe, he might have tried to rob us. Let's go, Ethan. I'm tired, I said, getting up. Yeah, let's go. Hey kid, you selling that sword? Manny asked, offering me a cigarette. How much are you offering? I asked, taking the cigarette. The market's down. Maybe 5, 6 grand, he said, trying to lowball me. Bullshit, Ethan yelled. I've seen guilds offering grand for it on the forums. Grand? A skinny kid with yellow hair who had been sleeping in a corner said, suddenly awake. Just kidding, Manny said, shooting Ethan a look that could kill. He was a known tough guy, and Ethan was immediately intimidated. Let's talk in my office, Manny said to me. We went into his small, air-conditioned office. There was a machete leaning against the wall in the corner. Ethan was sweating. I was calm. There were security cameras on this street. He wouldn't risk his business, which was worth way more than $. He could see I wasn't scared. I'm Manny, he said, trying a different tactic. I have connections. I can get you a good price. I'm Ben, I said. I'm Ethan, Ethan squeaked. So you're high school kids, huh? I know a lot of the guys at Northwood. You should know who I am, he said, trying to intimidate us. We just graduated, I said calmly. He was surprised by my composure. So, how much do you want for the sword? I held up 9 fingers. Too high, he said. The price is dropping fast. Ethan looked at me, worried I would go lower. On the forums, it could go for even more at auction. The price is what it is, I said. But I'm willing to be reasonable. 8,000, and it's yours. Ethan almost had a heart attack. $. Dollar was a down payment on a house in our town. Manny knew he couldn't fool me. 8,000 was a fair price. Deal, he said. But I need some time to get the cash. We can come back tomorrow. No, I want it tonight. He didn't want me to find another buyer. He called a few friends, and half an hour later, he had the money. Ethan stared at the stack of cash, speechless. His dad had been in business for over a decade and had only saved up a little over $. His employees only made a few hundred a month, and I had just made $. From a single video game item. I, on the other hand, was used to seeing larger sums of money. I barely glanced at it. Let's make the trade, I said. After the transaction was complete, Manny took a picture of the sword with his digital camera. He was going to flip it for a profit. He could easily sell it for $. And make a quick $2,000. You're a good kid, Ben, he said. You ever need anything, you come to me. And from now on, you and your friend play here for $1 an hour. Thanks, Manny. Ethan and I went out for a celebratory breakfast. I gave him $. Ben, I can't take this, he said, his eyes wide. Take it, I said, stuffing it in his hand. Thanks, man, he said, his eyes welling up. After breakfast, I went to a phone store. I bought 3 of the new Motorola Razrs, which had just come out. They were over $. Each. I bought one for me, one for my mom, and one for my dad. Ethan bought one too. I bought a bunch of groceries and went home. My mom was on the sofa doing her piecework. Ben, you went grocery shopping? She said with a smile. It was the first time I had ever done that. I'm an adult, I said, putting the groceries on the table. I got you a present. I handed her the box with the phone in it. A cell phone, she said, her eyes wide. Her brother-in-law had a Motorola that had cost him over $. Last year. She couldn't afford a phone like that on her salary. I sold a video game item last night for $. I said, putting $. In cash on the table. I didn't tell her the full amount. I didn't want to give her a heart attack. $. She said, her voice trembling. For a video game item? She didn't believe me. I had to call Ethan and have him explain it to her. Auntie, it's true. And we sold it cheap. We could have gotten $. For it, he said, exaggerating a little. She finally believed me. You're not going to get addicted to video games, are you? No, Mom. It was just a lucky break. I'm not going to get obsessed with it. You've really grown up, she said, her voice full of pride. I set up the phone for her. She was so excited. She went to the bathroom to wash her hands before she would even touch it. We called each other from different rooms. Can you hear me, Mom? I can't hear you, she said, her voice shaking with excitement. Do you like it? One day, I'm going to buy you and Dad a mansion and a luxury car, I said, lying on my bed. You silly boy. Don't waste your money, she said, her voice thick with emotion. My dad, Daniel, came home then. He had gotten the day off because of an electrical issue with the plant. He saw the groceries, then the phone box. Who is this from? He demanded, his eyes narrowing. He had seen his boss's new razor just a few days ago. He knew how much it cost. My mom explained about the video game item. He didn't believe her either. He had to call a friend from work who played the game to confirm that it was possible. Wow, my son's a genius, he said, puffing out his chest. Like father, like son, my mom just rolled her eyes. The SAT results. A few weeks later, it was time to get our test scores. I ran into Elena and Mandy at the school entrance. Ben, you here to get your scores? Elena asked, dressed in shorts and a t-shirt. Yeah. Are you going to retake the test if you didn't get in? She asked with a smirk. There is no if, I said, walking past her. I hope you don't come out of there crying. Mandy called after me. I ignored her. Ethan shot back. You'll be the ones crying. In the classroom, Ms. Albright started handing out the score reports. Mandy went first, just shy of the she needed for her second choice school. She burst into tears. Then it was Ethan's. He was ecstatic. He could get into a good state school with that score. Then Elena's. She beamed. Ms. Albright congratulated her, and the whole class applauded. She looked at me, expecting me to be impressed. I didn't even look at her. Then Clarice. She was trembling, her eyes filled with tears of joy. Finally, it was my turn. Ethan leaned over to see my score. Holy crap. Elena's jaw dropped. Ben, did you really get A? Yep, I said, putting the score report on my desk for everyone to see. She was speechless. A? How? How did he go from a slacker to a genius in 1 month? It was because of me. You should thank me, she said, a small smile on her face. Why should I thank you? I said, a little surprised. I should thank Clara. If it wasn't for her tutoring, I never would have gotten this score. But it was because I told you I was going to Riverwood State that you worked so hard, right? Without me, you wouldn't have been motivated. She looked down as if she were the victim. Elena, I said with a sigh, don't you think you live in your own little world? I applied to Riverwood State for me. It had nothing to do with you. She stared at me, her eyes wide with disbelief. She couldn't believe that the boy who used to do anything for her could say something so cold. Just then, my phone rang. It was my mom. Elena's eyes widened when she saw my brand new razor. How could he afford that? It must have been Clara. A wave of disappointment washed over her, as if she had lost something precious. I answered the phone and walked out of the classroom with Ethan. My mom was so nervous she couldn't even speak. My dad got on the phone. Son, did you? Did I get in? Yes, Dad. I got into Riverwood State. Really? He shouted so loud I had to hold the phone away from my ear. Just then, the school's PA system crackled to life. Ben Carter, please look at the main building. I turned. A huge banner was unfurling from the roof. Congratulations T.O. Ben Carter of the senior class on his acceptance T.O. Riverwood State. I smiled and bowed in the direction of the building. Sweet vengeance. Across the street, at the only fancy hotel in town, my uncle had rented out the entire ballroom for Brittany's graduation party. She had gotten on her SATs and was going to a decent, but not great, state school. My Aunt Carla saw my parents standing across the street and yelled, Daniel, come on over. Ben's not getting into college. You don't even have to bring a gift. My parents ignored her. She yelled again, you two are crazy. We waited until we got the scores to throw a party. You don't even know if he got in, and you're already planning a party. You're going to be a laughingstock. I walked up and handed my dad my score report. He took it with trembling hands. He froze. My mom looked over his shoulder and gasped. My son, my wonderful son, she said, hugging me, tears streaming down her face. Hey, Brittany's was nothing compared to that. My dad just stood there, a huge grin on his face. Just then, his phone rang. It was the TV reporter. She wanted to do an interview. She showed up a few minutes later, a look of shock on her face. The arrogant kid had actually done it. And here he is, the student who finished every test in an hour with an incredible score of more than enough to get into his dream school, Riverwood State, she said to the camera. Across the street, Brittany had come outside to see what the commotion was. She saw the news crew, heard the reporter, and her face went white. Mom, Ben got into Riverwood State, she stammered. The whole room went silent. Uncle Michael turned on the TV. There I was, being interviewed on the local news. It's not possible, my aunt whispered. He must have cheated, but it was too late. The guests were already leaving, heading across the street to congratulate my parents. The first date. The summer flew by. I got my ticket to Riverwood. Ethan was going to the Tech University in the same city. The train was hot and crowded. A new chapter, Ethan said, looking out the window. A new chapter, indeed. We got a hotel room with a computer. I logged on to AIM and saw a friend request from someone named Candy Girl. Candy Girl, hi. Ben, hey, do I know you? Candy Girl, you can call me Clara. Ben, you're Clara Jenkins? My heart skipped a beat. I had thought about her all summer. I had even dreamed about her. Candy Girl, who's Clara Jenkins? I'm Clara Smith, I smiled. She was a terrible liar. Ben, sorry, wrong person. Candy Girl, no? Ben, why not? Candy Girl, I'm bored. I don't have any friends. Ben, my girlfriend will get jealous. Candy Girl, she doesn't have to know. Ben, how do you know she won't find out? Candy Girl, I'm just guessing. I couldn't stop smiling. I had never realized how cute she was. Just then, I got a message from Lila. She was in Riverwood too. We met up for dinner. The next day was orientation. I was in the business school. E-commerce was a new major, and there were only 2 small classes. As I walked into the classroom, I saw 2 familiar faces, Lila and Clara. They were both in my major. Ben, Lila said with a smile. She had saved a seat next to her for me. Clara just looked down at her desk. Hey, can I sit here? I asked, walking over to the empty seat next to Clara. She turned her head away. No one's stopping you, she mumbled. I sat down. Lila's smile faded. She realized then that I was interested in Clara. Hey, Clara, long time no see, I said. Long time no see, she mumbled. She was wearing a white shirt and a white skirt. She was so nervous she had her hands clenched into fists. She wouldn't even look at me. Aren't you afraid Lila will get jealous? She asked, her voice trembling. Why would she be jealous? She finally turned to look at me, her eyes full of tears. Aren't you and Lila together? What? Who told you that? I saw you with my own eyes. Saw what? On the day of the test, you were hugging her. She had just been kidnapped. I saved her. She was scared. That's why she hugged me. Is that why you've been ignoring me all summer? She had seen the aftermath, but not the fight. Then why did you go looking for her? I knew she was in danger. That's the lamest excuse I've ever heard. Do you think I'm a child? She was getting angry. And what about last night? I saw you taking her to a hotel. Ethan and I ran into our friend Hannah. We all had dinner together. Lila wanted to thank me for saving her, so I invited her to join us. She and Hannah had a few drinks. I was worried about them staying in a cheap motel, so Ethan and I got them a room at the hotel. Ethan and I shared a room, and they shared a room. I explained everything patiently. She looked into my eyes. You're not lying to me, are you? I held up 3 fingers. I swear, if I'm lying, may I be. Don't say it. She covered my mouth with her hand. It was soft and warm. She quickly pulled it away, her face red. I grinned. Your hand smells nice. She blushed even deeper and pinched my leg. Ow! I yelped, grabbing her hand. It was so small and soft. It was the first time I had ever held a girl's hand. Her face was as red as a tomato. Hey, you two. The professor is here. A girl behind us whispered. Clara quickly pulled her hand away. After class, I asked her, want to get lunch? She pouted. Why should I? You deleted me on AAM. So, Candy Girl really was you. I said, my eye twitching. How could I not have realized? She would get someone else to call me. Yep. You didn't expect that, did you, you big dummy? She said, her chin held high. I knew it was you from the beginning. Why else would I have chatted with you for so long? I said, not wanting to admit defeat. So you knew it was me and you deleted me on purpose? She said, her voice full of hurt. Okay, you win, I said with a smile. To apologize, let me buy you lunch. She fidgeted with the edge of her desk, bit her lip, and whispered, is this a date? After 2 lifetimes of being single, I blushed. Yeah, I guess it is. She powdered her pink lips, her face as red as an apple. She was adorable. Okay, she said. I accept.